A beautiful morning to you, my amazing viewers. This is now streaming on ACNN TV, coming from the capital city of Abuja. I am Adeshewa Orioye, your anchor for today. And with me in the studio is Dr. Olusegun Shoyombo, consultant psychiatrist, National Hospital, Abuja. Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
Yes, thank you for joining us on the show today. So, viewers, today we'll be discussing a very sensitive topic. I encourage you to join today's discussion and also feel free to call in and make your contributions via our phone number or our social media handles, both showing on your screen. It is always a delight to hear from you. Now, to the discussion of the day. Raise your hand if you've ever felt overwhelmed by deadlines, swamped with responsibilities, or like there's just not enough hours in the day. Well, I am guilty as charged also, so I'll raise my hand. And this is because we live in a fast-paced world, and with that comes the constant undercurrent or stress and pressure. Today on our streaming, we'll be talking about how we can navigate coping with stress and pressure. Stress and pressure are a normal part of life. They can motivate us to achieve great things, but then they can become overwhelming and take a toll on our physical and mental health. Well, viewers, I want you to sit back as we shall be educating you more on coping with stress and pressure. Throughout this talk, we'll be exploring the signs of stress and pressure. We'll be discussing different coping mechanisms and we'll also discover how to create a more balanced and resilient approach to life. Our guest in the studio, Dr. Olusegun Shoyombo, a consultant psychiatrist, National Hospital Abuja, and Mr. Olalekan Mandela, a broadcast and journalism media personality, will educate us on what we need to know about coping with stress and pressure. Welcome once again on the show.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So now this is the discussion proper, and this you're a professional in this field. So I will want to ask, what can you educate us more, enlighten us more on mental health? Just briefly, what can we know?
I think that ordinarily everybody has an idea or an opinion on what mental health is, or at least what mental illness looks like. Some of these opinions, of course, are fraught with half truths or misconceptions, so it is good that we discuss it. So, what is mental health? But the question is, what is first is health. Health is not just the absence of disease, it is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being. So we see that mental health itself is a component of health in general. And I always tell people the fact that you don't have malaria or you don't have hypertension doesn't mean you are healthy. If a person is mentally unwell, we cannot say that person is healthy. Mental health itself is the capacity for the person to cope with pressure, to cope with stress. You know, stress is a normal part of life. Okay, it's the capacity of that person to contribute meaningfully to society. Those are the things that constitute our mental health. The fact that we can go through life coping with our difficulties from day to day, making meaningful contributions and feeling like we are fulfilled in life, generally talks about what mental health is.
Okay, so I know from a human aspect you have something to say. So, what do you have to say about mental
All right, so I am not a psychiatrist, so I'm not a medical practitioner, but from my own standpoint, I think mental health basically means mental mental health means the state of well-being of the mental state and the mental well-being of a person. So the mental well-being of a person is actually what makes that person vulnerable to how he tackle and cope with the issues of life. Like my the leader here said, we have the how to cope with stress and the various issues of life. So basically, that's how mental health is. So how we cope with a situation, how we cope with a challenge, how we cope with a problem is actually dependent on the state or the state and the well-being of our mental health. And mental health, I think, is different from mental stress. I will still leave the ground for the professionals to talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll come in and say that, when we talk about mental illnesses,
Yeah.
There's that general misconception. When people watch Nollywood, the only depiction of mental illness you see is somebody tying rags all over the
That's wrong.
body, and the clothes are torn, and the person is dancing on the
Correct.
street. And I always talk of an old movie. If I don't know if Adeshewa watched Morenike Alagulu, it was the title of a movie, and that's the typical depiction of mental illness. But that only represents about 1% of persons with a mental health issue. So mental illnesses will range from things like anxiety to depression to sleep disorders to eating disorders to sexual disorders, including sexual identity disorders, schizophrenia, childhood conditions like autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's a wide range of things. So it doesn't mean generally that everybody who is mentally ill fit. That's why we do not like the street language of, oh, he's mad or he's insane or those kind of things, because a broad range of illnesses, each with its own symptoms. But the good news, like I always say, is that most of them are amenable to treatment.
Thank you very much sir, for that explicit response on this question. All right, viewers, this is very educated. I'm already learning a lot from professional here. So I would like to hear your comments. If you have any questions you want to know, please feel free to ask or send in your comments via our social media, and I will definitely ask our guest here, and he will give us an answer to this question. So you said, I like the part where you said it's not all about people tend to take more responsibility on the well-being of that is maybe sickness and all of that, not knowing, especially this part of the world, they don't know, or the level of exposure, it's quite low, the percentage is quite low, that they don't know that mental health is always it's definitely very
As important as the body health.
as the body itself. So I want to ask you that what are the causes of of stress and pressure? Because I'm sure a lot of people, you said something, depression, anxiety in this part of the world where you say you have panic attack, they will be like, what is that? And just like you said, there's a pictorial depiction, or there's a depiction of what mental health, someone suffering from that. We have the postpartum depression, so a lot more. Let me don't mention that. So I would want you to actually answer that. What are the causes of stress, pressure, or what can lead to mental health?
Let me quickly leverage on what you said earlier. Why do our people not pay attention to mental health issues? You have alluded to one of them, which is the low level of awareness on mental health conditions, and we are grateful to ACNN for devoting this time to talk about it. It will help some people. The other problem is stigmatization. Because mental health issues are stigmatized, people are not able to admit and seek help, because you see, the first thing is to admit that there's a problem before you go and seek help for that problem. When people want to get married, they say they want to go and investigate the family. What are they investigating the other family for? Mental illnesses, usually. And then they will say, oh, there's mental illness in that family, don't marry them. Now the question is, which family does not have mental illness? Maybe you don't know about your own, but don't say it doesn't exist. So that's that about why there's low uptake of services, low level of seeking help for mental health conditions. What is stress? What is pressure? Stress is stress, pressure is pressure. But those things that put us under strain, and what will stress Mr. A is different from what will stress Mr. B. We must first acknowledge that it is a normal part of life. It's a difficult question for me to answer, as it were, because you have used those terminologies. If I was saying something like anxiety, then I'm speaking a language that I understand. But let's use them interchangeably and say stress, anxiety, pressure, they are normal parts of life, but sometimes they get overboard. The example I would usually give is you enter into university, first semester, you attend lectures, you just don't seem to understand anything they are talking about. They are speaking Greek, you don't know what they are talking about.
And you cannot tell your parent at all.
And then they paste exam timetable. And then all the things you did not understand before, you suddenly begin to understand, and then you write the exams, and then you pass. Because we need a level of stress to function in life. Sometimes it is about survival. You go to an event and the usher says, "You are welcome, ma. Please sit here. You are welcome, sir. Please sit there." And while you are there, there is a loud blast. Is it the usher that will come and say, "This is the way out"? No, you find your way out by yourself, because at that time your body is responding to stress and finding a means of survival. However, sometimes it gets overboard, where people now develop disorders as a result of stress and as a result of pressure. And sometimes it is either as a result of constant exposure or to an exposure to a huge level of stress. What do I mean? Somebody could, for example, work in a toxic environment, and every day he goes to work, he faces some stress or pressure. That can make the person buckle under pressure. But another person can be suddenly very fine. There's absolutely no problem. Then he's at work one day and they call him and say his house has burnt down. He's suddenly faced with a disastrous situation, singular episode, but massive amount of stress.
Wow, that's actually a lot. I'm sure Mr. Mandela has something to just I'm sure you were actually agreeing with what he's saying.
Yes, I completely agree with what Doctor said.
We just have to, because he's the one enlightening us.
He's the professional.
He's the professional.
But I want to start from where he talks about the stress and pressure. So, in a layman term, in my best understanding, I feel like pressure is what we feel at the moment.
Okay.
Something that excites us at the moment. When I talk about excitement could mean different things. It could mean something good or something bad. So when I say I'm excited about my exam, doesn't mean I'm happy about it. It might just be I'm anxious. What's the pressure? So pressure is the tension we feel at the moment. Now, the prolonged pressure is what leads to stress. I don't know if my doctor agrees with me here. It's the prolonged pressure that leads to stress. Now, pressure is good somewhat because it makes us get things done. Sometimes when some persons do not see deadlines, they won't work. When they don't see, oh, your boss is calling you, they won't do that work. So pressure to an extent makes us get things done, make us work, but it makes us get more done, but less great. Okay. It's because it makes us get more done but less great in such a way that when we are under pressure, we do a lot of work, but it will not be great. The creative flow will not be there. We'll be less open to collaboration. We'll be less open to feedback. We will just, the goal or our mindset then is, let me get this thing done, regardless of the way I put it. So we most time go for the first idea rather than the best idea.
Okay, I like the terms you use is actually you're talking like a communicator, just like in the field where you have workloads
exactly from 9 to 5
and as a media personnel you just have to come up with it. And we have there's this creative flow you have to,
exactly,
if you're not in that realm and you are under pressure, you just, what you want to do is just
get
obey
it done,
order, and however it is, it's none of your
business. Just get it done. That is that. Now for the stress part, I feel like stress I want to answer the question of what causes stress now. In my own little understanding, I feel like stress always comes when we are faced with challenges or occurrences that are beyond our control, that we have little or no control over. Now, like the doctor has said, when somebody else got burnt, you have little or no control over that situation. Even if you have money, you will still have the stress. And when somebody got divorced, all of these things, they are most of the things that we cannot control or we have little. For example, if I'm working 9 to 5 and I'm earning very little, that my transport fare has even covered my whole salary, I have little or no control over that situation at that moment. Not that I can't get a better job, but at that moment. So I will always feel stressed that I'm going for a work that I don't have choice. I have to feed. I have to live. So I just have to go. So that is the stress people are facing.
And you won't be productive.
And you won't be productive to the maximum.
To the maximum.
Yes. Now, when you are going through that stress, You might, yeah, how you, some of the things you might feel, or some of the things that you might be feeling during that time, how your body will react might be something like headaches, nausea,
Migraine, actually,
migraine,
because
a
it's
lot of things.
constant.
And some of how you might feel, not your body now, how you might feel, you might start acting irritably, you might start acting defensive, you might not, you might be withdrawn from people that
Edgy.
you love, you might be sleeping too much, you might be taking alcohol, you might even have a sexual problem. So all of these things,
Just like you
just
said.
yeah, just like doctor said. So all of these things stems from stress, but stress is really important. Pressure at first, when it comes as a pressure. The way we navigate it can come from different factors. You want to tell me that somebody who is used to eating 101 from his childhood will be able to navigate life better than someone who is used to eating 4 times a day? And when they both reach adulthood stage, person, I can't cope with this. I'm always eating 4 times or 5 times a day. How will I cope? But somebody that's only eat once or just twice,
He's
we know
already
that
used to
is
it.
already used to it, and he will be able to navigate it better. So I feel like how people navigate or cope with stress, it based on different factors. It can come from your background, environment, parenting, childhood experiences, abuse. Person that go through a rape, sexual abuse, or maybe rape or something, will be able to navigate stress differently from someone who is brought up with love. So that's what I feel about
All right,
stress
thank
and
you,
pressure.
Mr. Mandela. That was lengthy, but I think speaking on the aspect from a media personality, I think I can relate to what you're saying. All right, viewers. We right now the situation of the country. It's already is affecting our mental health. We just have to be honest. If you ask, I think Nigerians are known to be edgy. I'm frustrated because the way we insult ourselves this morning, you see drivers, they've already insulted themselves. Just maybe the two of them, they're actually wrong or little patient, but because of they are already at this edge of breaking out, so we just transfer aggression. So our viewers, I will want to hear from you, and how are you dealing with stress? What is your coping mechanism? So, and I want you to follow through as our doctor here will give us or enlighten us some of the mechanism we just have to do, especially during this trying time, because it is really indeed a trying time. All right, so moving on to the next question, and I will take it from this angle. There is this is it a myth or this general saying that a particular gender, the male gender, actually are the ones common with stress, given that they have to provide, they have to protect, they have to, do a lot for the family. The list keeps going on and on. I'm sure you you can add to that, but we also there's this awareness that there are women too, it's overwhelming, especially taking care of the family. And as a man, you can only give what you have. As someone who we all know what the minimum wage is talking about. You receive salary and you can only give your wife, okay, take 20,000 naira, and she's like, how much do I want to, she will not even be appreciative at first. After giving, like, how much do you think that they are selling a bag of rice, or a bag of rice, or a mudu? How much do you think? She will start listing, and she, as a woman, she had to, like, how do I make ends meet? How do I, economize this money? We also have taking care of children, and the woman, also a lot of it. So you can see now that it's not just in the male. So I want to ask that, is stress and pressure, is it familiar with a particular gender or also age range? Because now we have young persons. As of yesterday, I received the news of someone in his late 20s who slept and did not wake up. So, and this has been occurrent over time. You hear young persons having high blood pressure and all of that. So, what do you have to?
Well, I'll say first that we should be careful about attributing every death, particularly in young people, to stress.
Okay.
People can have other medical
Issues.
conditions that can be responsible for a sudden death in a young person.
Okay.
The first question is stress or pressure related, or is there more affinity for a particular gender? I don't think so. I think what is different is how the genders respond. Men are more likely to respond with irritable behavior, indulging in substance abuse, alcohol, use of other drugs, and all that. And on a general note, Mr. Mandela mentioned some of them. There are good ways to cope with stress, and there are ways not to cope with stress, and we'll come to that later. The women tend to internalize more, and that is part of the theories for which we say that depressive illness is twice as common in women than in men. The men have lashed out. Everybody is catching fire in the office because the guy is not happy today. Driver is in trouble. Secretary is hiding under the table and all that. The man is fighting on. How many times I always ask people, how many times have you seen two women fighting on the road to say you hit my car or you scratched my car? So that irritable behavior tends to be commoner in men. Women face their own levels of stress, and sometimes I dare say that women begin to face stress much earlier than men. Because if you went to a mixed school, it means you had boys and girls in school at the same time, and by the time you are getting to senior secondary levels, you are learning the same thing, you are writing the same exam. That girl has had to miss school once or twice because of period pain and things like that, not to talk about abuse and all the other things that they go through. So each gender has its own stress, but I think we should focus more on solutions than on the problem. So if you have a woman who is quarreling because she was given 20,000 naira, there are a few possible scenarios. Number one is that she might think that the man has more and is not giving, which is a question of communication. Why should your spouse not know what your income is? Now, if your wife realizes that that is all you earn, does she think that you have the capacity to earn more? Does she think that there is something else that you can do that can support the family income? And then the question again is, why is the woman also not in some economic activity so that she too can earn an income to support the family? Having said all of this, it's really quite difficult for a lot of people, and we all must hope and pray for our country that things begin to improve. I always also like to add that the problems appear to be global. I always tell people, please watch the foreign stations. I don't see any country now where they are not abusing incumbent leaders. Even in the country, people are jackpying to the people there. I mean, they just did elections in the UK, the incumbent party lost. They just did elections in France, the incumbent party did not win, and it's like that almost all over,
Because you said something about women actually contributing to the family income and all of that. I think women are now raising up to that realization that it doesn't have to be a man doing that. We have women who are actually bringing up to the table, but there are times where possibly maybe a childbirth, she will have to stay at home. And if now imagine if there was a complication or something, the one thing might lead to another thing, why maybe she cannot go back to work or something and she has to stay at home. And this, when we are talking about mental health, this also have a way of affecting our mental health. So it keeps going on and on. All right, Mr. Mandela, I would like, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, doctor has said it all, but I want to paint a scenario. So let's say we have a career woman who all her life she has dedicated it to work, becoming a better version of herself. So somehow, somewhat, maybe she came from the Yoruba family and the Yoruba said, oh, you need to get a husband. You can't just be doing work all day. And she said, okay, let me give it a try. And she ended up with a man. And for the very first time in her entire life, she got pregnant.
Okay.
And her pregnancy, maybe the second trimester, couldn't allow her to go to work, the bustle, and also that energy is no more there. She just had to stay at home and eat. That is why I said stress come in different ways. So for that moment, she's going to feel a lot of stress because she's not used to that situation. So to answer your question, I feel that stress is relative and subjective. we cannot attribute stress to certain age or certain gender. Why we feel like some people, okay, let me use the popular phrase of adulthood na scam. Say adulthood is a scam. Some people are enjoying their adulthood more than they enjoy their childhood. Some people are having the best of their life in their adulthood. So I feel like this thing is actually relative. Look at me. I've grown so much, but then I had to look for admission for like 7 years before I got admission. I'm very sure that 7 years would be like the most stressful time of my life. But then what happened when I graduated? I got a job immediately, high paying job, and I was able to start a family and I started living well. I'm very sure that before getting the admission will be more stressful than after getting the admission. But what about the person that got admission at 19 but had to wait 7 years before getting a job? I'm very sure it is after graduation that our own stress just started. So I feel like stress is relative and it is subjective, and how we cope with it, like I said, deals with our background, our environment, and some of the things. So that is my take on that.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, sir, for your contributions and your answers to these questions. So, viewers, I'm still expecting to hear from you. You can call in. We want to. Yeah, I'm delighted to answer your question. We have a professional here, so and you can also send in your questions. This you just have to do that now, especially now that we want to talk about the strategies in for managing stress and pressure in our daily life, looking at the current happenings in Nigeria, because we come to an organization, we go back home, we face even waking up alone, leaving your house, or by the time you're making breakfast, maybe do people have breakfast like maybe egg and bread. Some people might just throw in something in their stomach and get out of their houses. Then you come out. If you have a car, you have to look for fuel. You're already aggressive. You're already on the edge, and maybe sleeping, just like you said earlier, the sleeping, you have to, some people, they are sleeping
Pattern.
it's very short, so you can imagine at that point you're already edgy. Then coming to the office, you're already drained and you're not productive. So I want you to tell us, what are the effective strategies to manage some of the stress and pressure?
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
The first thing I'll say is to realize that not everything is under your control. You are not the reason why there's fuel scarcity. You are not the reason why prices are high. It's also to realize in most cases when we talk of the general things affecting the population, not personal situations, you know that, well, you are not the only one facing it, so that gives some comfort. The first thing is not to indulge in maladaptive mechanisms, the bad coping mechanisms.
Okay.
You cannot drink away your sorrow. It is a lie. When you wake up, the sorrow would have multiplied and be waiting for you. Okay, so people should not use bad coping mechanisms to deal with their problems. Exercise is one of the most underused medicine in the world, because it is medicine. It's one of the ways. If you get up in the morning and you're able to go for a brisk walk of about 30 minutes, you actually come back feeling better, because when you exercise, your body releases certain hormones that we call feel good hormones, and you actually feel better. And sometimes it's an opportunity to clear your head and have some thought and have some space to yourself. Okay, another way to cope with difficulties really is to sit down and analyze the thing and see what you can do about it. What can I not change? What can I change? What can I not change that I have to cope with? What personal adjustments do I have to make? So there's fuel scarcity. Some people are selling higher than before. Then you have to ask yourself, the place I want to go, is it important? Do I have to go? Is there another way to route my movement? A lot of us, you see, in this country we have been spoilt, and I hope people will not come for my head for saying that, because now the chicken has come home to roost and we are faced with reality, and that's why we are crying. Your church is supposed to be a walking distance from your house. Your children are supposed to go to school walking distance from your house, but we all will live in Lugbenyanya and come to Wuse to our churches in Utako and all of that, and then we are shouting about fuel scarcity. We are all in that situation. So those who can make amends should now make amends. If you can continue to afford it without complaining, good for you. But if it is stressful for you to the point where it is unaffordable, then it is time to reconsider and see what adjustments you can make. If things improve later, you can switch
back
again. So that is about making adjustments to our personal life. So we've talked about exercise, we've talked about making adjustments. Sleep is also important. People should be deliberate about sleep. Having faced all the pressure of work and everything, then you come home and continue to load yourself with pressure by watching very negative things on your phone up until the middle of the night. I don't see how it helps. And then, like they say, if you cannot take the heat, get out of the kitchen. There's too much negativity around, and that's where I would plead with the media that I don't think there's any benefit in re-emphasizing our difficulties. What people need is a measure of hope and to hang in there until things get better. If you watch your television, just switch from channel to channel to channel, they bring all sorts of analysts. They will discuss problem for 50 minutes and discuss solution for 5 minutes, and the program has ended. So people who feel pressured by the society's problems should reduce their exposure. You want the news, you want to know whether you should go out or whether you should stay at home, or whether there's an opportunity that you can benefit from. Beyond that, stop feeding yourself with negativity, and it's all our responsibility. Forwarded as shared, please take responsibility for what you can't just send nonsense and say forwarded as received and think you have put a disclaimer there. What is the essence of that thing that you have shared that is stressful to another person? Let me not take all the time with that.
Okay, so, and now I have a question from a viewer. How can one deal with joblessness after trying job hunting for many years? Then you start a business, then it's not forthcoming, and how do one deal with the stress and all of that?
I'm sure Mr. Mandela will have a few things to say about it. But let me quickly say that number one is to say, is it that I sympathize with? I mean, there are many people in that both, and it is sad. The jobs are just not there, and that's why the economy needs to pick up. But we have to ask ourselves the question, because being employed is about having something to offer.
Value.
It is government that does social employment. The people that are asking for 250,000 minimum wage, if we sit down and do an analysis of the civil service and the government says we don't actually need more than 50% of these people, would they agree? They will not agree. But government to keep the country running is happy to keep people at work even if they don't need them and be paying them salaries. But other than that, employment is about having value to add. So for our young people, yes, you are in university, but you may need to reskill, you may need to upskill, you may need to learn something else so that you are able to add some value. So that, and when people travel, they do anything. I usually agree that you can be underemployed. You can be a graduate and be doing the job of a school sat holder, but I usually don't like to hear that somebody is completely unemployed. You can find something to do that takes care of your basic needs, pending when something that is more decent comes your way. But it starts first with having something to offer, and everybody has something they can offer. Let us say, for example, the women tend to do better with unemployment. They can make hair. You find that they can sew clothes, they can bake cake, they can fry chin-chin, they can start cooking for people, they can do makeup artists. They tend to do better. If it weren't for the taxi hailing services, men had nothing to do. When Uber wasn't here,
and women are also
when we didn't have Uber, what the jobless men used to do? Nothing.
Even those with
they
job.
go to bet, sell one land to 15 people, police station today, police station tomorrow. But everybody has something to offer, and we must focus particularly on the younger generation. Can you teach music? Can you teach drama? Can you teach language? It's not just about going to school? Can you act? Can you do this? Do you have IT skills?
Experience.
Do you have all of these things? And I think that whilst I have nothing against entrepreneurship, I also say people should be very careful. The percentage of small businesses that survive a few years is very, very small, and the chances of a business failing will be higher if the person who starts the business is fully dependent on that business. It is easier for somebody who earns 40,000 naira teaching in a school to have a side also. But if that side also has to put food on the table, pay fuel money, pay light money, then that business may not survive.
All right. So what do you want to...
Okay, so I'll use my own personal experience as an example. So I'm a graduate of biology, but I found myself in journalism. And it all started because I feel that I have a flair for speaking, and I joined Unilore 89.3 FM then to start my radio presenting. So just like Doctor have said, you must have something to offer. Now, if you are unemployed, my advice to you in this current economic crisis we find ourselves is to lean on your passion, what you love to do. What do you see that makes you happy? What do you see that your light lit up? Is it fashion? Why can't you start content creation on fashion? Is it movie? Do you like to watch movie? Then start a movie review. Have a YouTube channel. Let people learn from you. So lean on your passion, lean on what you can do best. Is it church? Then start going to church and start. The goal is to get yourself busy with something. Idleness is the devil's workshop. You don't want to get idle. That's the greatest of things. And another thing I want to let us know is that you cannot always start big.
Well, that's the problem of many,
especially in Nigeria. You cannot always start big. If you say that you want to be a great actor, you want to be a great journalist, you want to be a doctor, maybe like I cannot reach the level he is now, because you have to start somewhere. Then level by level you will find yourself. But the goal is to make sure that you are not idle. Lean on your passion, lean on what you can do best, lean on what makes you happy. Then gradually, you might even start volunteering, start doing things for free. Okay, I can write content. Nobody's calling me for jobs. Okay, let me start writing on Medium. Keep at it. Facebook, every day, post something. Let people always look forward to what you're doing. After a while, people will start reaching out to you. When I couldn't get a media organization to employ me, then I started my own podcast, the Mandela Podcast Show. And from there, I was able to interview an international guest. So little by little like that, lean on your passion, lean on what you can do best, and you will see that things will keep getting better for you. And I'm sorry, I want to answer the question you talk about managing stress. Now, as a 9-to-5 corporate person, one of the exercises that we do that actually helped a lot is breathing. Now, breathing, inhale and exhale. So the first time I heard about the inhale and exhale, I was like, what kind of childish exercise is there? But it's really the work. And I feel like maybe people are thinking like it's like the regular, but no, like you inhale with your nose to your tummy, like you inhale and your tummy gets bloated a bit, and you hold on. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold on for 7 seconds, and you breathe out for 8 seconds. Because when we inhale, it signals tension, fear, something like a tension. But when we exhale, it brings calmness, it brings relaxation. So you breathe in for 4 seconds and you breathe out for 8 seconds, double of how you breathe in. I think it really helps. Another thing we used to do is to squeeze our face and do like this for maybe 5 seconds, then we release at once. Yes, you can try it. Just close your eyes and go up, then you release it. By the time you release it, you will feel a calmness somewhat, because when we are juggling life, it can be really, really stressful.
It's really stressful. And
just a little addition part to that person who asked that question. I would say, please don't stop applying for jobs. And like I said, don't be too picky. I do not know your qualification. I do not know your level of education. But you go to the malls, hundreds of people work there. I don't think that is their ambition to work there forever or for a long time. But for the time being, they have something doing. We don't have time for a lot of stories, but even as a medical doctor myself, at the time I graduated, doctors are required to do a 1-year housemanship. I didn't get a slot immediately. I was working in a cyber cafe. My housemanship slot came from somebody who came to browse in the cyber cafe.
Wow.
So if I wasn't there, where would that help have met me? So please do something, don't stop applying.
Don't be
And
idle.
start from somewhere. Take a small job and continue to look. And then please, there are online learning resources.
Yes.
Improve yourself.
All right, thank you very much for that. All right, now we're already out of time, but in 30 seconds, what advice can you give? I know all this is also an advice, but just to top it up, what advice can you give Nigerians about the entirety of the topic today?
If we are talking about the Nigerian situation, all I'll say for everybody is hope is the currency you cannot afford to not have. We all must have hope. Let us stop spreading hopelessness. Everybody, when they open their mouths to talk, it is to talk about the hopelessness of the situation and how difficult things are. Number two, let us love each other. Simple gestures, simple acts of kindness. What does it cost you, for goodness sakes, to hold on for 5 seconds for somebody trafficking to enter his gate to enter? That is when you match throttle, press on, flashlight. Is it Tinubu that caused that one too? Simple acts of kindness. Let us help each other.
All right, in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, Doctor has spoke about the eye can feel scarcity. I want to talk about the stress. I want us to know that stress starts from the state of mind, and just like Chelsea Erikwa said, stress is an accelerator. So you either push you forward or push you backward, but you choose the direction. So my advice to you is that stress will always happen, but the way you cope and the way you manage it will show the kind of person you are. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you, sir. It's been enlightening for me, and I'm sure it is for viewers out there. And just like we've discussed, some of the approach to manage some of this stress and pressure, exercise, adjustment. Nigerians don't like to adjust to something new, and that is very, very, very bad. They don't want to adjust at all. So we just have to, then the sleeping habit, positive mindset, act of kindness.
Making someone
Please,
smile.
sorry, thank you. It won't take a long way, but some people say I don't apologize, I don't say sorry. Do you know who I am and who we are, where we are today? Viewers, remember, stress and pressure are inevitable, but they don't have to control us. We've explored various strategies for managing stress, from relaxation techniques to building healthy habits, and also developing a growth mindset, a positive mindset at that. I have to be emphatic on that. So viewers, I challenge you today, experiment with these techniques. Wait, show acts of kindness, say sorry when you need to, compliment each other. I don't think the world is going to stop. And till I come your way next time, I am Adeshewa Urioye. Bye for now.